Thank you, everybody, for joining us today for Finding Strength with Anne. And it is my pleasure. I have a really special guest with me today. It is Joe, and I'm going to tell you how Joe and I met before I let him do his introduction. Joe and I met at a time where my adopted mother had just passed away from cancer. And I was reaching out and looking for people to help me find my footing in the world again. And by chance, by reaching out to this life group, I find Joe. And he was exactly what I needed at the time. And he has added so much depth to my life. I'm going to let him tell a little bit of his introduction and who he is. But I think you guys are going to be really excited. Joe, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell us about who you are and what you've done with your life.
Uh, I mean, look, I'm a 53-year-old guy, father of two, married, you know, um, but like a work in progress. My life really didn't start until age 40. Imagine the halfway mark. Looking at 40, it was like my birthday, April 7, 2011. So imagine this, the candles are coming out on the cake. And, this was kind of a defining moment for me because as I was looking at the candles, I was thinking to myself that a 40-year-old man, there's no evidence that a man has actually lived a life of significance, of any kind of impact, anything measurable. I mean, I had some moments of I if I may dare to say, like some greatness.
Yeah.
Look, I had a scholarship to an American university, trained for the Olympics under a U.S. Hall of Fame coach, one of the most decorated coaches in college history. Um, but there came a point where it's just like I got soft. I came out of university
Yeah.
thinking that the world was gonna, uh, the world was my oyster, and I got
Yeah.
soft.
Yeah.
There's an old saying, I think it's Franklin that said, Ben Franklin that said, people they live till 27 and are buried at 77.
Yeah.
Something happens between, after age 27.
Yeah.
What happens? You got to start paying bills. You move out, hopefully, sooner or later. You got responsibilities. Life starts to happen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And as life was happening to me or through me, whatever your perspective is, I got soft.
Yeah.
And from 27 to 40, 13 years, I got to 250 pounds.
Wow.
I had cancer, lost my dad. That
Hmm.
was honestly, that that sucked the energy out of me for a few years. I never, it took me a while to recover from that.
Yeah.
Because I saw my dad's last breath and this guttural kind of exhale. I can never, I can remember it like it just happened yesterday.
Wow.
But look, I mean, life starts to happen, and I had cancer. We lost a baby, um, and then it impacted my self-image to a point where I didn't pay bills. I ignored them.
Yeah.
I kind of I
I've
was
been there,
hiding them.
Joe.
I was hiding them,
Wow.
and 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 then then it hit a critical mass where I thought, well, gee whiz, I mean, why would they? Surely I had cancer. We lost a baby. There's a good reason. They'll accept my story and forgive me for not paying my taxes.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the case, right? You got to
Yeah.
pay your taxes.
Yeah.
And I mean, they put a lien on our house.
Oh, jeez.
I don't want to talk so loud because my daughter's on the other room, but I don't want to scare her.
Yeah.
But it got scary. And so bringing it down to 2011, April 7, my birthday,
Yeah.
I was, it was just a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And what it was essentially is just this unexpressed potential, right, in me.
I like the way you
And
put that. It's unexpressed potential.
yeah, I stole that. I stole that. I read a lot of books. I study.
Yeah.
So, and we can get into that later, but it was that unexpressed potential that led to a lot of pain and anger and doubt and a low self-image of myself and pity. Um, and I remember my wife and the kids were like, "What's wrong? Like, these aren't tears of joy. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah." And anyways, and then it was like a month later, my wife said, "Well, why don't you start exercising? Why don't you start running?" Like, running? I hate running. I hate running. Who likes to run? Like for
Unless
no
someone's
reason, right?
chasing you.
And and now this has become like running has become my platform, my like a platform to like for personal tr change and transformation. And I didn't realize until like after losing 70 pounds in 7 months and shedding all this weight that, the world started to look at Joe as a different kind of guy. I had a different energy, a different start to fit in clothes that were, slimmer or now I was like fit. And my story is I run ultra marathons for a hobby. I run extreme races around the world. I just ran 31 miles on Friday. I ran a half marathon on Saturday, followed by another half marathon today.
Wow.
Um, I'm training for a 100-mile race in May. In March, I'm going to run actually about 40 miles overnight to the start of a race that like a few cities over.
Yeah. Where's
If you
that race
Google
going to be?
it's in Hamilton, Ontario.
Okay.
Anyway, it's just west of Toronto, but I've done this 4 times where I run to this race and anyways, but this thing is this running business is not sustainable, but it's really what changed in me is this really approach to life and this training mindset. The old Joe, the athlete where Joe was just killing it when he was 19, 20 years old in university, and adopting a lot of the same beliefs or the same kind of mentality, but applying it to really four distinct areas in my life. And the first area is training or studying, reading every day is my mindset.
Yeah.
So every morning it's a wake up, it's a morning mindset to read and study. To read God's word. I'm reading this month's book is going to be I'm going to be rereading the book called Grit by Angela Duckworth.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look that
Phenomenal
one.
book,
Good.
great book. Made a big splash a few years ago as a business book. Um, the second thing, the second interior empire that I focus on is prayer and or journaling on paper. Like journaling is like prayer on paper. Health, I run every day, but my approach again is like a training mindset, right? I keep a record of my learning, of my my time with God or myself on paper, my journals. And I keep a record or a log of my running. And the last thing is I keep a journal of my gratitudes every day. So those are the four things that I do. That really, in a nutshell, that's who I am. That's what I drive towards. That's what I value the most, because it centers me and it makes me. I, I believe I'm trying to be the best dad, the best father, the best husband, but my focus is to be this, have this, to live this daily, this like it's a personal commitment to like living an ultra high quality of life, right?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
in 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 God's eyes,
Yeah. So
and
I
that's my
have to
focus.
so I have to ask, I want you to share with our listeners because I know you mentioned you've got a wife and you've got kids, and I know
Hmm.
some of our listeners out there have families. And
Hmm.
if you could share with us, I want you to tell us about the bell in the middle of the table, because
Ah,
even
yeah,
speaking to you and talking to you about the sense of discipline
yeah.
of these habits that you create each day, share with our listeners regarding the bell and how that's used in your family.
So I come from a background in sales, selling software. And if you've, seen any movies or, there's, or you can imagine a trading floor or a sales floor somewhere where there might be a bell. Um, my focus is I've broken out my plan every day is to win, to have these little wins every day, reading, studying, reading God's word, praying, running every day, and a gratitude every day. And anyways, so we got this bell as a gift from somebody, and I thought to myself, man, I'd like to introduce this to my kids and to my wife, and as a family, and we love to eat, and we love, like, we're real big foodies. We got this big Jesus table that we got many years ago. It's 9 or 10 feet long,
Wow.
and it's handmade with, like, reclaimed wood. It's just a gorgeous piece of thing, uh, of of um, of architecture. And anyways, and so we have this bell that sits on the dining room table. And so what happened was, about 7 years ago, we had a teacher that said, my son had a learning disability, and I was taken aback by that, because I thought that was really strong. And I was actually offended that a teacher could actually go there with my son kind
Yeah.
of present. And I said, man, you know what my son needs is, he needs to know that he's a champion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't need to wait for a report card to measure the greatness in this young boy.
Yeah.
I know the character of my son and my daughter, and whatever the grades are at the end of the year, I really don't care. And by the time you get it anyways, it's already too late by that point anyhow. But I wanted to change the culture of our family and celebrate the victories, the small ones. Vince Lombardi says the winning is a habit, Notre Dame head coach, but so is losing. And I've been on the losing side, and I just finished telling you,
Yeah.
just shared with you, like, how for those 15 years leading up to my 40th birthday, like, I was like, there's people were telling me, I'm staying away from you, man. Like bad luck. You got a
Yeah.
cloud and I believed it. I
Yeah.
believed I had bad luck. So, anyways, back to the bell. So we started off with, all right, what did you do great today? And then just ring the bell. You give the bell to my daughter, she can write a thesis. She can write an essay on all the great things. You can imagine, like, she's had a business for the last 7 years. She's got university college already paid for.
Wow.
She's like killing it at school. She's like in theater and like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
high performer, high achiever.
Yep.
Um, and my son, who is like, it's like, he's looking at it like as a performance, trying to deliver something
Yeah.
as a. And I said, Gavin, just find something great, or maybe something grateful. And so it became as great or grateful. Well, are you grateful for something, or you did something great? One out of two. Oh, you can't find that, great or grateful. Well, maybe love or learn. Someone you love, or something you learned today.
Yeah.
So great, grateful, love, learn. Okay. Then we added one more to the whole thing, which was blessed. What do you feel blessed for?
Yeah.
So, like, one out of five. We've now since added one more,
You
because
have.
we've added a sixth now, which is thinking of.
Love it.
Thinking of. Is there somebody you want to remember? We've lost a lot of people, a lot of great people this last few months in our family.
Yeah.
And like, why don't we take a moment to reflect and think about somebody special in our lives?
Yeah.
So, one out of six, it doesn't take much. And I'm not asking for a big essay or a big presentation.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, reach in, go deep, find something, make it meaningful. And if you can't, And I get it. I've been there. I've had those days, weeks. Then just tell your best Chuck Norris joke. But you better do some research. It better make us laugh.
I love
So
that.
that's it. So we ring the bell. The bell goes around. And what's interesting is that, when we have friends over or, people come over for dinner, because again, got this big table. We love to, my wife loves to entertain and cook. Um, that we introduce this to our friends and loved ones that come to celebrate dinner with us, and it's a celebration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe, I have to say the concept of the bell, and I remember you first telling me about this,
Hmm.
and it resonates so well with me because, to your point, as part of my podcast, is happiness is a habit.
It
And it's that
is.
habit that we do, and
Oh
what we
yeah.
seek is what we will find.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
and their story resonates so much, and I'm sure it can resonate with our listeners out there to be able to say that, can we at least find one thing? Can we start somewhere? Because they do
Yeah.
exist,
Yeah.
but sometimes we have to look for it. And,
Yeah.
and we will find what we
Yeah.
look for. So we talk a lot about communication and kind of to your point of saying language speaks life. What are we communicating? What are we putting out there? And then the second thing I'm going to talk about is the fact that we always talk about connection.
Hmm.
And having the bell helps you connect with your family. And for even
Hmm.
people visiting you to connect with each of you in your family. And then the next thing I know that our listeners want to know about
Hmm.
is talk to me about the daily text messages that you get that have now become
Yeah.
kind of this signature card, as you
Yeah.
will. So tell me about this
Mm.
gentleman who inspired
Oh.
you
Oh
regarding
man,
this.
what a gift.
Yeah,
And I gotta set this up because um so it was like 2013-ish. So imagine, like I told you back my 40th birthday, the 2011.
yeah,
It was around 2013. I'm at a funeral. I'm at a funeral, and this gentleman lost his mom. She lived a long life, and changed the world. I mean, she did a lot of great things with her life, giving
yeah,
back, and just a phenomenal woman. Anyways, we came all together as a family and friends to kind of celebrate, the passing of his and her graduating up to heaven.
yeah,
At the funeral, I meet as someone, and somebody says, you got to meet this guy. This guy, I mean, he's living the life that everybody dreams of. When he was my age, he wasn't even working. His kids have never seen him work.
wow.
Like, what does he do? Like, that's what I want to know. You know, what does he do?
Yeah,
And like, I totally forgot there was somebody, like there was a woman in a casket. Like because like
well,
when I see the guy at a distance, I can see this guy's Rolex. It
yeah,
looked like something like a Kanye West, like with this
yeah,
dripping wet gold and diamonds encrusted. Like the whole thing was all diamonds. And I'm thinking, I don't know what that thing must have cost more than my house. And I'm like, what does he do? Introduce me to the guy. Come on. So I meet the guy, and so we didn't have much time to talk, much like as an exchange. But it was the following year, same families that was celebrating the loss of his mother. They're now celebrating like a 30-year wedding anniversary or something like that. And Dr. George is there, and uh, and he's there. And as I come in, I'm coming in sweaty like I am right now with my running gear because I just left a race. I ran 50 miles on a race as a
yeah,
training run, and just to make the time, I just went from the race straight to this party, and there's Dr. George again. I'm thinking, well, gee whiz, we didn't have really much time to talk the first time,
yeah,
but what struck me, the reason why I didn't forget about this guy, is I saw the clarity in this man's blue eyes, like these steely blue eyes,
yeah,
and this nice smile, and this softness. Him and his wife, just this, like they just radiated like
yeah,
this beauty.
yeah,
And I don't remember what he said the first time, but he said something about God. And he always, I mean, I know him today. I mean, he always quotes scripture. I mean, he gave me my
yeah,
my John Maxwell leadership Bible,
yeah,
and 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 I said to myself, man, if there's a person who has that image of what I want in my life,
yeah,
like I know how to run,
yeah,
but show me how to get that.
yeah,
And that was the big question mark. How do I get that clarity? And he took me under his wing. We met on that at that wedding anniversary party, and we just honestly, it was just a two like imagine a guy like looking like my father and a not that I'm young, I'm
yeah,
53 right now, but in my 40s at the time, a guy that's twice my age and giving me like wisdom that my father couldn't give me.
yeah,
And that that's the kind of character that he has, kind of played in my life.
yeah.
Ever since, he's been guiding me but he's been sending me text messages since for 10 years.
Wow.
So for 10 years, I get a text message that might be a Joel Osteen quote, a Napoleon Hill, a favorite author. I don't know where he pulls it from. He probably has got like several subscriptions,
Yeah,
and then just sends me something. And it's not meant necessarily for me to solve. Like it's a daily mindset. It's to activate, that gray matter between the 6 inches between your ears,
yeah,
and it's become a bit of a like a ministry.
yeah,
So I got a life group, as you know,
yeah,
and I send it out to everybody that I love and know, and
yeah.
in my life group and even others. And there's an Uber driver that now follows me, and we've become like best of friends.
I love that. And to your point, I love how you mentioned regarding you just look into his eyes and you can see that peace that he has.
Oh yeah.
So now you're fast forward 10 years. Do you feel that you have more of that peace that you saw in him back in
Ah,
2013?
it's a lot like I would love to give you a nice feel good story. I, I've, it's almost like running these 100-mile runs.
Yeah,
You know, like some of my races, they last 30 hours. Like I'm planning a race right now. I'm putting together a plan, and I'm expecting it's going to take me no longer than 30 hours, best case 24 hours.
wow.
And we talk about, you've probably heard of the runner's high.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
that high does not last for 24 hours. Let's just be real.
Yeah,
Your
absolutely.
your your brain would just tap out. It
Yeah,
couldn't produce that hormone perpetually.
right.
Um, and so, look, there are moments of peace and clarity,
Yeah,
and there's moments where, I'm just trying to keep things together and just,
yeah,
back to basics,
yeah,
short little bursts, short little rewards here and
right,
there. That's the key to endurance.
right.
Whether
And,
you're running a race,
yeah,
100-mile race, I get a sip of my watch tells me when I got a drink
yeah,
every 15 minutes. And that drink, there's nutrition in the drink. There's salt and electrolyte. I also
yeah,
take a salt pill,
yeah,
but generally there's electrolyte. And sometimes I might even take like a splash of ginger ale or a Coca-Cola. Or that effervescence kind of just helps the tongue. And again, you're playing these mind games.
yeah,
And like I've never had the perfect run.
right.
Uh, I've never had a perfect like 30 days of like bliss.
Yeah.
Like, look, if I would be lying to you. Like,
Yeah. And to your
like
point, though, to your exact point, though, it's that moment of clarity and those moments of peace that you've been getting,
yeah.
which I think they speak volumes And
Yeah.
each time you get it, it's a gift, right?
Dr. George said, he asked me something like to that effect. He says, "Yeah, I totally get it, but except you're like a duck on water. On the surface, everything looks smooth,
Yeah,
everything looks good, but down below, it's like, I'm paddling, right? I'm
exactly.
moving. Like
Exactly.
I'm always looking. Like I
Yeah,
don't want to fall. I don't want to
yeah,
drown. Like,
yeah,
and there's a
yeah,
lot of things going on. We got like gee whiz, I mean, we're solving different things. I mean, if you're married, you got kids and, a job and, the things happen.
yeah,
Like, gee whiz, like, it was the first of the month and
yeah,
I was praying that my tenant was going to pay
yeah, yeah,
because last month she was 5 days late.
yeah,
And I'm wondering, I don't know if is she financially stable?
yeah,
I lose sleep over these things.
yeah,
Clarity. It's like,
yeah,
no, I'm just a duck, like
yeah.
paddling. I look good on the top, but
And to your
yeah.
point, through all that adversity that you've had, Joe, for our listeners out there, what would you say are the biggest lesson takeaways? Like, how is all that stuff that you've gone through? What have you learned that has made you stronger today?
Look, little wins every day,
Little
right?
wins every day. I love
Little
that.
wins, little micro wins.
Yep.
Little things matter. Little
Yeah.
little details, like don't dismiss the little things in life,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Like for me, take it for what it's worth. Like the four things that I do, my little micro wins. I mean, I still got to pay the bills. I still got to show up at work, and I got to sell. And this is not stuff that makes quota for my like to
Yeah.
make my boss happy, but the little wins to feel like I'm winning. And I'm not trying to fake success either.
Right.
Like my reading is reading, and it's studying. I
Right.
take like copious notes and try to see where I could use it in as and have it part of my fabric and my play into my conversations and a
Yeah.
sales pitch or
Yeah.
in my interactions with people. I read every day, I pray every day, I run every day, I give thanks every day, right?
I love that.
And
I love
micro
that.
wins,
And
ringing the
when,
bell,
yeah,
ringing the
we
bell, right?
literally took it completely full circle because the very first thing we talked about is you will find what you seek. And to your point of being able to say, look for the little wins. And when you find the little wins, you'll get more of them,
Yeah.
you know?
But for me, like the real transformation uh started to happen when I shifted from, all right, maybe I'll try this running thing. It wasn't, I shifted, when I shifted from trying to training, I mean, that's where the Joe started to like, started to show up in the world as in a different light, right?
I love that. I
Um,
love that. That instead of
taking that
trying,
training
training.
mindset,
Yeah,
training, yeah.
I love
And
that.
so, like, back to my four core habits,
Yeah,
I approach it like a training mindset, like much like an athlete going to the gym and doing reps, and then keeping a log of the weight that he did and how many reps or
yeah,
she and and jumping jacks and everything else that enters into the realm of training.
yeah,
But look, the bottom line thing is that faith always follows action. You got to do something.
yeah,
Got to do something. And then going from training or trying to training. People who try things,
yeah,
they quit. Are quitters. I'm talking from experience. Like
yeah,
Joe is a quitter. I quit a lot of things. I let a lot of relationships die on the vine. I have some failed relationships,
yeah,
failed businesses, partnerships. You could we can go into like
yeah,
again. There's ears on the other side of this wall here. I don't want to scare my little daughter, but
yeah.
um, you know, but people who try, they quit on, their families, on, not showing up to soccer practice. They quit on relationships. And but the person who trains, they show up differently,
It's
right?
like you've
And
learned that failure is feedback.
yes,
Failure is
yes,
feedback so that we recognize that we are always a work in progress.
yeah,
And what
yep,
did we learn from that that we can take to
yep,
the next experience,
Yeah.
and we can learn some more
Yeah.
versus just quitting, right?
Yeah.
What did we
Yeah.
learn? I love that. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that.
And
I can't,
little wins along the way.
uh,
1% rule.
yeah,
The Atomic Habits book.
yes,
1%, little gains, over a long period of time leads to massive results, massive gains. Um, I love that book.
yeah,
And I'll leave you, which is maybe the last thing, which
sure.
is, again, I stole this. The 40% rule. Have you heard this?
The 40% rule. Tell it to me
40%
again because
rule.
I've got a lot of percentage
Yeah.
rules that I love.
So there's the 1% rule, right?
Yep.
1% gains, right?
Yes.
One
Yes.
little over a long period of time leads to
Yep.
massive results. The 40% rule is this, is when you feel like you've given everything you've got, and I've run some of these races, I run ultra marathons where I feel like, man, I'm tapped out.
Yeah.
I'm like just done. I don't know how, like I did this and I don't think I can move anymore.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that, I could like a day later, it's like, wow, I don't feel the soreness that I thought I would have, and maybe I didn't hit my max. But here's the thing, here's the rule, is that when you feel like you've hit that wall and you've got nothing left in the gas tank, the reality is you've only hit 40% of your potential
Ah,
and you still got 60% left.
wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I love
I
that.
love that. I do too.
That's real. That's really powerful because to your point, it's not trying, it's
Yeah.
training.
It's training.
What can we do to kind of start and pick up those wins and maximize those strengths and resources that we have
Yeah.
to move the needle, to keep moving forward,
Yeah.
right?
The
So I
the
think
brain will
that's,
tell you to quit. The
well,
brain
right,
will try to
because,
save you,
well,
try to save
exactly.
yourself and
And that's what a lot of things that I talk about is that amygdala, our body, our brain, its first thing is survival of the fittest. It wants this to
that's
survive.
exactly it.
In order for this to survive, it tells us don't do that. That might hurt you. You might get harmed. It wants us to survive.
That's
That's
right.
its, but it's that higher brain
Yeah.
again, the prefrontal cortex
Yeah.
to go, but is that really true?
Yeah.
Recognizing what is true and what is not, and seeing that truth for what it is. Because
Yeah.
again, going back to what you seek is what you will find.
Yeah.
And if we seek the good, we will find good. And we're priming the pump so that we have adversity like, that's not true because I just did that over there. That's not true because I know that
Yeah.
there was something over
Yeah.
there. Keeping
Yeah.
that thing right at the forefront,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
absolutely love. And I will say, I think that for this podcast, I literally am going to make the title, Let's Train, Not Try. I love that. That
Yeah.
is phenomenal. That's
Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And Joe, I can't thank you enough for joining us today and all of our
My
listeners.
pleasure. My
It's just
pleasure.
absolutely amazing. And
Uh-huh.
we might have to have you back to talk about running at some future thing. And
Anytime.
I know you've gotten me into running as well. So I'm very, very grateful. So thank you
Well,
so much today. And
my pleasure. You're a gift, Ann. You are. You're a
absolutely.
gift.
And thank
Yeah.
you so much. And again, for more podcast episodes, please check out our next one for Finding Strength with Ann.